Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle, the wrestling podcast. Right now, we're going to be going on the aspect of staying just on YouTube for the time being. I'll talk about that a little bit later on in another video, anything that's going on. I am trying to figure out the full-on audio thing that's going on and where I want to go with everything, because the audio portion of the hosting thing, I'm going to go a little bit on a ramble here before we get into Monday Night Raw tonight. Or today. This is Tuesday afternoon that I'm currently filming this. Like a lot with the video side, I can usually do it very simple and get it up on YouTube and everything in that sense pretty easily. But on the other side of everything, with the audio side, a lot of those places have like a hosting fee and everything in that sense. And I'm kind of currently looking into what I actually want to do. I have been doing some stuff over on SoundCloud for over the last couple weeks. And I kind of like how they do everything there. I have audio recording that I can do for everything in that sense, but I'm not currently going to be sticking around with that one because I'm trying to figure out what would be the best price and what would best suit for me at this point. So I'm going to do a little bit more research at this point in time and see how everything ends up playing off. So with that out of the way and how I'm going to be doing research and everything, let's get into Monday Night Raw. For the where the focus of this episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle is going to be at. I almost said October. Even though I said it now. But for August 14th, 2017, this is the go-home show for the Monday Night Raw side going into SummerSlam. And I'm not going to lie to you, they really put a lot into this one. And they did do a few tropes in there that I would probably never really necessarily be fully about in certain aspects of it, but overall I felt the show itself was a fairly entertaining one, and it looked like they pulled out all the it's like, here's all the stops that you're supposed to never do on Monday Night Raws or anything like that, and they just pull them out. Let's have some fun with this tonight. They started off the show with Dean Ambrose. He gets it really simple. He brings out Seth Rollins, and they kind of do this whole back and forth thing in their promo with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. Like, Seth Rollins even has like a moment of self-reflection throughout the entire aspect of saying like, I understand your reasons why you don't want to trust me, everything in that sense. And they have they continue to go on this whole aspect of the fist bump the Shield fist bump that they usually go with back in the day for the Shield. To the point that they kind of start brawling over this. It's like neither one of them want to do the fist bump, and they start brawling like, it's like two brothers finally having it out in that sense, because they consider themselves brothers, everything in that sense. So it's almost like two brothers having it out, and then Sheamus and Cesaro come out to pick the bones and do everything in that sense to beat down both Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose. But they finally start working together, and they get rid of Sheamus and Cesaro. As this is going on, they get rid of both of them. They go up the rampway. Both of them are in the ring. They tease the fist bump again, where one person puts out their fist, but then they retract it. And Seth Rollins would do it, and he would retract it. And then and it got a massive pop from the crowd too. And then they do the Shield fist bump at the same time, like they usually had done, to a massive pop. And you have it's hilarious how they would never let go of it. Like, they just, like, the entire time they had the fist bump in there the entire time for each other. And this does bring out Kurt Angle, who immediately decides, he's like, okay, I've seen enough. This is my Raw Tag Team title match for SummerSlam. He makes Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose go up against Cesaro and Sheamus for the Raw Tag Team titles. Good segment. I've liked the build-up. What they've done. I even like the aspect that the two of them start brawling. Like, before Cesaro and Sheamus come out, and then they start working together and everything in that sense. I like the build-up to them kind of reuniting everything in that. To a certain degree, I would have not minded them going to SummerSlam without doing the fist bump, but the whole Shield fist bump thing here, I think it works out perfectly fine. It actually brings, it kind of gets rid of the storyline element of whether or not they would work together at the pay-per-view, so they kind of can focus on the fact that they are probably going to be working together during that match. So, yeah, overall, I like the segment. I like this build-up as well to the whole, semi-Shield reunion, 2/3 of the Shield's reunion with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, in that sense of it. I don't know if we're going to get Roman Reigns at any given point in time, but we'll see how everything plays off. Up next was Sasha Banks going up against Nia Jax. And first of all, before this, they did talk about what had been happening with Ric Flair, and of course, in the sense of in the sense of it as well, as a wrestling fan who's been watching most of my life, I've seen Ric Flair for a good period of time. As many of you know, he was in the hospital in a medically induced coma, went through surgery, everything in that sense. So of course, the WWE does something there, and of course as well, well wishes out to the family and Ric Flair. Hopefully he gets better in the sense of it. So we bring it down a little bit because Ric Flair, there's nothing more to just really say. He's kind of like a living legend in the terms of the wrestling business. As a matter of fact, in most cases in the terms of wrestling, a lot of people would probably know Ric Flair. A lot more people would probably know Ric Flair than they would know any of the current superstars at this point in time. In the terms of the mainstream media, everything in that sense, the mainstream public in general, because a lot more people watched wrestling back then. In that sense. So, well wishes as well out to Ric Flair's family, obviously Charlotte, all his kids, and his current wife as well at this point in time. Hopefully Rick gets well soon and we get to see him again. So, back on track with everything. We have Sasha Banks going up against Nia Jax. This was a good match. This is for number 1 contendership for Alexa Bliss and the Raw Women's title, and it came off as a relatively good match for both of them. It was, Sasha Banks going over in the end with how they set up the Banks statement, which I liked how Nia kept powering herself out of the move, only to get caught one more time into it and eventually having to tap out. This is obviously, I feel like this was the best option in terms of their matches for SummerSlam, was Sasha and Alexa. So it was really weird when they went with Bayley initially in that side of everything. So now, even though I'm a Bayley fan, I always I looked at it, I was like, best option is probably Sasha Banks. So they're going with that option now that, I'll put it, unfortunately Bayley injured herself, or got injured in a match a couple weeks ago and everything in that sense. So, like I said, it just kind of brings it back on track where a lot of people felt like they should have been going with in the terms of this, in the terms of the SummerSlam match. They also had Alexa Bliss out there. She was in what they were trying to call a throne, but it was pretty much a lifeguard's chair in that sense of it. And that's what it really was. Just painted silver and everything to go along with that. But yeah, overall, good match. These two work really well together, and they put on good matches for what everything is worth. Even though we've seen Sasha and Nia have multiple matches, they put on good matches, and they put on another good one here. So yeah, overall came off really good. Up next, you had right after this, you had Kurt Angle backstage. He was watching the television, not in the weird way how everyone just sits to the side to watch TV on Raw. He was actually looking at the TV, and it was at the back of the TV. It was a little bit weird. He was starting to talk to the Hardys and everything in that sense. Matt giving his typical mannerisms, almost in the terms of the broken side of everything. Miz comes in and he said, "What are you gonna do about feeding Brock Lesnar to us last week?" He's like, "Nothing, nothing at all." Matter of fact, Curtis Axel, you were supposed to have a match with Jason Jordan last week. You're gonna have that match tonight. Which Miz was basically like, no. I'm gonna take on Jason Jordan. I'm going to teach him a lesson, everything in that sense. I thought that portion of the segment came off really good. I like how Miz is coming off. Like every time someone interrupts him, how like disgusted he is. Even though Kurt gets pulled away for a legitimate reason with Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor because of like a brawl, he's supposed to take care of the situation. He gets disgusted at the fact that he is overshadowed by a brawl. I love the mannerisms of the Miz. He comes off so good in the terms of everything that they have. So this actually brings us in after the commercial break to the brawl with Bray Wyatt and Finn Balor. They were basically brawling backstage. They're getting pulled apart. Eventually, like Kurt basically says, like, save it for SummerSlam. Finn doesn't want to wait. And then he goes after Bray. It's like, okay, if you guys don't want to wait, you're going to do it tonight. And you're going to have the match. And they're going to have the match. So he made the match for Finn Balor and Bray Wyatt tonight versus at SummerSlam. Yeah, not bad segment there. And like I said, it seemed like they were pulling out all the stops, and they were basically almost making it feel like SummerSlam was coming a little bit early tonight, in the sense of how everything was in the terms of the matches that were being made and what was going on throughout the entire night as well. So it was like you got usually these go home shows haven't been that good. This one came off really good. Even though I'm not the biggest fan of having the match be on the Raw or the SmackDown beforehand, I thought the stuff that they came up with made it feel like it was still going to be fresh going into the pay-per-view matches that they're going on with, in the sense of everything. So, up next, you have Big Cass. He was coming out. First of all, this is the best stuff we've seen from Big Cass. I love the stuff from Big Cass tonight. The aspect of making it feel like that the crowd was getting to him and everything in that sense. You could tell that wasn't actually the crowd getting to him. He was just kind of playing along with it. Man, Big Cass was such a giant heat magnet that night. Like every time he would talk, the boos would get louder and louder. Eventually, he gives off this line saying it's like, trying to demean the fans, and he make the boos get even louder. It's like, when I talk, people listen. When you talk, means nothing. Kind of paraphrasing what it was actually said. Because I don't know the actual quote. This was just great heel work from Big Cass. Cutting the promo on Enzo and Big Show. Basically saying it's like Enzo always needs a giant, so that's why he has Big Show, and Big Show has Enzo because he needs to stay relevant. Mocking the fans for not even really knowing what Enzo's talking about most of the time. Which, to be honest with you, probably a lot of people don't have a clue. I mean, like half the time I don't even know what he's saying to go along with it. This is great work. Eventually, Enzo and Cass come out. And it leads to them going after Big Cass, but Gallows and Anderson show up. This is a little bit random, but it comes off of what they're trying to go for. They end up both getting rid of Enzo, and they beat down Big Show to the point that they tie a belt around his arm, and they put it inside the shark cage that they had lowered, obviously with the whole thing with Enzo being in the shark cage. For the SummerSlam show, and they slam Big Show's hand and arm inside of the shark cage, essentially breaking it. As a matter of fact, they even do a segment later in the show where Big Show was in the trainer's room saying, it's like, from all indications, your hand is broken. We shouldn't. And Enzo is trying to talk Big Show out of it, and it's like, you just had this great line from Big Show. It's like, I've been hurt worse and by bigger people. I'm gonna fight him at SummerSlam. Good line from Big Show, honestly. I liked what they came up with here. I haven't been the biggest fan of where they've been going with this, but the stuff that they came up with on this show I thought was really good, and it actually kind of got me into this match a little bit. And I do kind of want to see it as well, just a little bit more than I wanted to beforehand. So up next to talk about. This one kind of came out of left field, but I like their reasoning behind it. They had Akira Tozawa going up against Neville for the Cruiserweight title. Now, their reasoning behind this is that that Titus O'Neil went to Kurt Angle saying that, Boston's a big time town that needs a big time title match, it needs a title match and everything in that sense. They're trying to give it the feel of a big fight and everything towards the cruiserweight title match. So I like the reasoning behind it. It was a little weird having the cruiserweight title match 7 days before they would typically go with, but they gave it a prominent spot on Monday Night Raw and instead of probably maybe getting relegated to the pre-show on SummerSlam, so not too many people will be watching. So a lot more people got to watch this one. Man, did these two pull off a good match. Oh man, Akira Tozawa and Neville, they worked really well together in this match. And the aspect of Akira Tozawa finally going over on Neville, somebody finally going over on Neville in the terms of a title match or in a one-on-one match in general at this point was a little bit, I won't say off-putting, but it came as like a big shock and a big surprise. You had the title change on Raw, and they do make the announcement later that Neville is going to go ahead and get his rematch at SummerSlam as well. So you're still going to have the SummerSlam match to go along with it. And like I said, the match was really good. Both of them kind of teasing their finishers and not necessarily hitting it until Akira Tozawa hits his senton off the top. You even have Neville missing the red arrow, which was actually his downfall, going for the red arrow this time and missing. And that what led Akira Tozawa to hitting the senton off the top rope and getting the pinfall. I thought this was a really good match, and it came off really good. They had the celebration after the match and everything in that sense. You had Apollo Crews come out and celebrate with them to go along with it. I liked how they had all this set up. I thought it came off really good. So up next, you had a backstage segment with Mickie James and Emma. You had Emma basically complaining about, just complaining over everything. She hasn't had a chance. She plays off the aspect of starting the women's revolution, which Mickie takes offense to because she was kind of part of it back, doing her thing before Emma was even around. Challenges her to a match, so they have a match later in the night. And the match between the both of them was an okay match. You have Mickie James going over in this match, so they're playing this off as like Emma continually wants to get a chance. And, she gets a match or something like this and ends out losing in the end. So that's kind of... Maybe they're trying to do this to do a face turn for Emma or something in that sense. I don't know. At this point in time, they do need more good baby faces, but you don't want to get it to the point that you have so many baby faces and too few heels. Like this has been one of the other things about the Raw's women's division. It always had too many. It either had too many heels. It's always had too many heels at one point. And they only had like a couple baby faces. But for the longest time, it was like everyone was heel, and it was only Sasha and Bayley as the baby faces in any way. Now they're gonna, like, this losing streak thing kind of entails to having a baby face turn at some point in time. I don't know if that's gonna necessarily be the case, or whatever they're gonna end up doing for it in that sense of it. But it came off. Like I said, the match itself came off all right. It was an okay match. Mickie James going over with the mitt kick. The crowd was not really into this match at all that much, but it was what it was in the sense of everything. And again, it's like it'll be interesting to see where they're going with Emma and everything in that sense, because they're still playing that whole thing of her saying # give Emma a chance or something in that sense to go along with it. So. Up next to talk about is the Finn Balor Bray Wyatt match. Good match. This was a really good match between both of them. I felt the finish almost came out of nowhere, but I also like the aspect of a lot of these matches. You don't have them kicking out of one finisher after another finisher, and it's like once one finisher was hit, match is done. And these two put on a good quality match. With everything, like Finn doing that running dropkick spot on the outside of the ring comes off really good. Like both, for the most part, they were kind of getting their main stuff in there, and it just came off. It came off really well. I enjoyed the entire match. The finish comes with Finn Balor going for the coup de grace or the coup de grace, and Bray Wyatt basically stops him and hits the Sister Abigail and gets the pin. After the match, you had Bray Wyatt hit another Sister Abigail, and then he kind of teleports out of the ring and teleports back in. And when he comes back, like the lights go out, when he comes back, he has a bucket of almost like a slop bucket, and it was filled with something. I think they called it like an acidic anomaly or something. I don't know what they really called it, but it looked like basically movie blood that gets poured over Finn Balor. Like he's sitting there like trying to get it out, like because there was a lot of it there, and Bray pours it over him. He's trying to get it out of his eyes and his face, and he's kind of squirming around and everything to go along with it. And honestly, I ended up liking this because what they needed to do this entire time is give a reason for Finn Balor to bring the demon, or the Demon King, or everything, basically the body paint variation for Finn Balor out, which they do have a thing after the Mickie James Emma match where he comes out of Kurt's office still with the fake blood and everything on him, and basically says that that Bray, like, he was going to get a rematch at SummerSlam, and that Bray Wyatt was going to find out that it was like Bray Wyatt has his demons, and now Bray's going to find out that I have mine. So indicating that, you know, Finn was going to bring the demon persona out, and then they confirmed it a little bit later. That was one thing I didn't like, was the fact that they sat there and basically confirmed it. They should have left it right where Corey Graves had left it, where he's like, wait a minute, he's referring to the demon. Is that what I think it means? And they could have left it there. They decided to go a little bit further, and they actually made a graphic for it to say, it's like, you're going to get the demon persona. That was the one thing I didn't really like about it. But overall, like I said, it gives good reason for Finn to bring out the demon persona, being like humiliated and everything in that sense in front of the Boston crowd. And actually, like I said, it gives a good reason for them to actually bring out that persona into the SummerSlam match. So, up next was Miz going up against Jason Jordan. This was a rather short match. Jason Jordan basically has most of the offense here, and looked like he was going to go for the win, but the Miztourage, or Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel come in and stumbling over my words. They attack Jason Jordan, and the Hardys end up making the save. First of all, in the terms of promos, and I think a lot of people are going to be on this sentiment. Jason Jordan's kind of flopped in the terms of the promo side and the full-on maybe on the full-on character side of everything, but his in-ring work is kind of making up for that. He works really well, and like he has a really good in-ring style, everything in that sense, and it kind of shows off in each of his matches that he has a good in-ring style. For everything, good intensity, everything in that sense. He obviously just needs work on that promo side, and everything. And then, after getting on that a little bit, basically afterwards, like, they play Jason Jordan's music. That's another thing. They need to change that music. I know they've changed Big Cass's music a couple times. Please change Jason Jordan's music, because that is awful. I think we said it from week one when he came out to the new music that it was awful, and it's no different now. It's not like I'm warming up to it or anything. It's not. It's not any good. So they come back from commercial break, and like I said, they had played his music and everything as they were going to commercial break, so you thought that was it. No, you come back, and the Hardys and Jason Jordan are going up against Miz, Bo Dallas, and Curtis Axel in a six-man, which was a good match. They put on a good match here. Good six-man tag. Would have been interesting if they would have gone with this for the SummerSlam match, if they were going to get Miz and everything in there, because I don't think they're going to have an Intercontinental title match on the show, and if they do, it's going to be Miz and Jason Jordan. But it would have been. I think they should. I feel like the six-man tag would have been a better idea at this point in time. At least, just to me, that's how I feel it should have gone in that sense of everything. But they went with it here on Monday Night Raw. It came off really good. And again, well, but like I said, it came like it was out of nowhere, because it was like almost one of those things where they cut to commercial break, music's playing, everything, so you kind of like, okay, that's it for them. Nope, 6-man tag right when you come back. Interesting. And you had the Hardys and Jason Jordan go over. Again, Jason Jordan looking good inside the ring of everything. Like, at this point in time, I kind of wish there was a little bit more Kurt Angle being involved inside of this stuff with Jason Jordan to go along with it, but you don't really see them together all that often in any segments or anything in that sense. So I feel like they need, like, to try to progress this more, they need to get Kurt Angle into this a little bit more in some way, shape, or form. In the terms of like just having them backstage together, whether he's giving him advice or something in that sense to go along with it, and just play it up a little bit more. But otherwise, Jason Jordan in ring is really good, and you're just hoping that this doesn't fully fall flat on its face as it feels like it's been doing over the last couple of weeks. But we'll see where they go with everything, because it doesn't necessarily mean that just because it's falling flat now doesn't mean it's going to fall flat forever. Maybe people get into it or something in that sense down the line. So this brings us to the main event segment of the night, which they dubbed as a face-to-face-to-face-to-face segment, with Brock Lesnar, Roman Reigns, Samoa Joe, and Braun Strowman. Heyman comes out, and he cuts... Like, they allow Heyman so much leeway with promoting a pay-per-view match, or just in his promos in general, like even making mention to like having interest outside of WWE and how the WWE is conspiring to get the Universal title off of him. And he even makes mention in there is like, if Brock Lesnar loses the WWE, because they make mention of him if he loses, he leaves WWE. But if you, like, also making mention in this one is like, if he loses that Universal title, you might as well as lock this beast in a cage. And he goes, wink, wink, at that point. Good stuff from Paul Heyman. Like, basically going through everyone. Again, like Braun Strowman, Samoa Joe, and Roman Reigns, hyping them up, only to say it's like, but Brock Lesnar will be the actual answer, and that even though they're conspiring against him, he's going to come out the victor in the end. Joe comes out, cuts a quick promo, which brings out Braun Strowman. He doesn't really cut much of a promo. They have a back and forth between him and Joe because from the stuff from the week before, and then Roman Reigns comes out, basically starts the fight. He walks in, instead of saying any words, he just spears Samoa Joe. And then Braun gets rid of Roman Reigns, and you finally have Braun Strowman and Lesnar face to face. Security gets into the ring, and it's like to hold them back. It's like, you gotta save the main event. In this sense, so they basically had a pull apart brawl for the rest of the show, where security, of course, was ineffective. So they brought out superstars, everything in that sense, and I thought it came off pretty good, even though it came off fine, even though we've kind of seen the pull-aparts a lot more over the last so many weeks. It still came off fine here, and the way that they built up this one, and the promo as well from Heyman building up this Universal title match, has been really good. This kind of is one of those little explanation points, like just the final point to the actual match itself, and I thought it came off really good. So, yeah, that's pretty much everything for Monday Night Raw this week. So, with that being said, yeah, I'm trying to think here. Is there anything else to really say? No. Outside of saying one more time again, get well soon, Ric Flair. For everything, like, everything in that sense, trying to come up with the proper words here. It's like, basically, it is a get well soon, Ric Flair. We hope to be able to see him again in the arena, anywhere in general. Thoughts, prayers, everything out to the family. Hopefully he gets well soon. And I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of GodSaw's Turnbuckle. I thank you guys for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.